Straight in. I can't. You are keeping it now. You can still play it for you.
I have play now.
Yes. Sit down. So you didn't play it now. We don't have any time to play. Now let's go. Ready. Straight in.
So you have to be beside me. Your Excellencies, honorable ministers here present, my lords, our royal fathers here present, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to this occasion of the 10th anniversary and memorial of the KRSD Foundation, which is taking place in these august premises. Please, may we be seated at this point in time. Thank you all very, very much. My name is Christopher Ogundari, and my co-anchor is
Everestus Festus Emmanuel.
And together we will be moderating this program from the beginning, hopefully to the very end. At this juncture, may I please invite all distinguished guests to be upstanding as we take the national anthem. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Officer.
Thank you so much. And once again, I'm most privileged to welcome you to this occasion, which is the 10th year anniversary and memorial of our KWAPDA'S Road Safety Demands Foundation. I have the privilege to introduce our special invited guests. For the want of time, we might not be able to have the entire names announced because we are already running behind schedule. Today, in our midst, we have His Excellency, the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osibajo, GCON, SAN, who is ably represented here by the Special Advisor to the President in the Vice President's Office, Dr. Lillian Idiage. I wish to also most respectfully recognize the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, represented here by the Permanent Secretary, General Services Office, Dr. Maurice Nambi Mberi, FCA JP. May I also recognize the founder, KWAPDA Road Safety Demands, and the President, Court of Appeal, Honorable Justice Monica Domba Mensah, PCA JP. I also have the privilege to recognize the presence of His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kebbi State, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu. We also have with us the chief host of today's occasion, the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Malam Muhammadu Bello. Permit me to most respectfully recognize the Honorable Minister of Transportation, Honorable Rotimi Amechi. I have the privilege to recognize the chairman of today's occasion. He is a former Minister of Aviation and former Commercial Federal Road Safety Corps, Chief Osita Chidoka, OFR, NPOM. The host of today's occasion, the Commercial Federal Road Safety Corps, Dr. Boboye Oyeyemi, is here represented by Assistant Commercial Dr. A. Nwaka, MNI. The keynote speaker, the National Focal Person and Country Director, United Nations Decade of Action on Road Safety and Injury Prevention, Nigeria, Professor Sidney Ibianosi. We also have with us the distinguished Senator Suleiman Asonya Adokwe, former distinguished Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Permit me to recognize the Chairman, Federal Road Safety Commission, Madam Kari Bello, ably represented by the Assistant Commercial in charge of Special Duties and External Relations, Assistant Commercial A. Dazama. For the want of time, we'll proceed to recognize the Royal Fathers, heads of agencies and departments, special marshals, other invited guests. You are welcome to this event today. May we give ourselves a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Officer Festus. Without further ado, we would like to invite to come forward the chairman of today's occasion in the person of none other than Chief Osita Chidoka, OFR, NPOM. Chief Osita Chidoka has the distinction of being a former Minister of Aviation in Nigeria and former Corps Marshal.
Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I will stand on the existing protocol as established by the Master of Ceremony. I want to warmly welcome everybody to this August event. we're here today to celebrate 10 years of road safety advocacy by the KRSD. In 2012, I was in my office and they said a justice of the Court of Appeal wanted to see me and that she has a program with road safety. So I didn't get the link, appeal court and road safety. And then she came into my office and I could see the pain, I could see the resolve as she narrated to me how her 32-year-old son was knocked down by a hit-and-run driver. That driver has never been identified till date. She also told the story of how those who wanted to help in the rescue operations took the boy out and then had to bring him back to the scene of the crash because they didn't want police trouble. So he bled to death. It was a very painful incident. Samson Domban will have been 42 today, a lawyer. He will have been here when the mother made it all the way to become the president of the Court of Appeal. He will have been a proud young man, and he is like hundreds of thousands of Nigerians who over the last few years have passed on Nigerian roads. The bloodbath on Nigerian roads is a story that many are familiar with, but many cannot relate to. Because for some reason, we all believe that road crashes is a problem caused by people who are driving, so it is the driver that caused the problem. I am a good driver, and that's why nothing can happen to me. Road crashes are perceived as the will of God by many people. So if it happens, so be it. That's how God decreed it. But if that be the case, then we will wonder why countries like Sweden have been able to bring their road crashes with their Vision Zero down. We should wonder why places like Japan have brought their road crashes down, why the OECD countries have come from 125 deaths per 1,000 vehicles down to about 5 deaths per 1,000 vehicles. It means that concerted effort, it means that advocacy, it means that engineering, education, it means that enforcement, it means that simple things like wearing your seatbelt, it means that observing the road signs is something that works around the world. And the countries that have done them have seen remarkable improvement in their road crash numbers. So when she told me she was going to go into the area of advocacy for road safety, I was impressed, I was touched, and I gave her all the encouragement. I commiserated with her at that time. She was still mourning. But we went beyond the mourning to action. She got inducted into the Special Marshals. She set up the KRSD. She began to intervene in the issues of pedestrian safety. The KRSD continued to work. In 2016, we took the story to Kaduna. Then I had left FRSC, I had left the Ministry of Aviation. We went to Kaduna State. Our plan then was to go to multiple states with the story. Why do we need to go to the states, and why am I happy that the state governor is here today with us? It is because road safety is a shared responsibility. It is not something that the federal government can do. It is not something that the FRSC can do alone. If you look at the FRSC's report for the first quarter of, if you look at the report of the first quarter of 2021, yes, 2021 first quarter, you will see that the bloodbath on our road continues. About 460 people died instantly in the crashes, meaning that those who went to hospital, if you account for them, those who died subsequently within 1 month of the crash, over 1,000 Nigerians have passed away in road crashes in the first quarter of 2021. If you go by second quarter and third quarter, we'll be heading towards about 4,000 or 5,000 people. So whenever I ask people, by what percentage should we reduce road crashes in Nigeria, deaths on our road, people say 50%, some say 60%, some say 40%. And those numbers are good. I mean, 50% reduction is great. But when I ask, by what percentage should we reduce road crashes in your family? Everybody says 0. They don't want any death in their family. Because when it happens to us, when it happens to people, then you realize the pain of people dying suddenly. There's a young man I call, his parents named him Great. He lived in Wuye. When I was called Marshal, his father used to come to all our functions. He used to sit at the back and he would be crying most of the events. What was the problem? Great lived in Wuye and went to school in Zone 7. So he had to cross the Nnamdi Azikiwe Expressway every day. And when they cross it, the young students cross, they will see vehicles coming and they will run across the road and they will give themselves high five every day for crossing that road. On this particular day, they crossed, but Great didn't make it to the end. A hit-and-run vehicle knocked him down. When they took him to hospital, the mother was still pregnant and was almost 8 months pregnant. They told her her son has been hit. Great was about 9 years old at that time. So they took him to the hospital. The mother was told she fainted. By the time they took her to the hospital, she lost the pregnancy and she died herself in the hospital. So the father lost a son, he lost a wife, and he lost an unborn baby. So it is in memory of Great that I forced the World Bank to build that bridge that crosses from Wuye to Zone 7 so that children can cross without having to walk. The bridges you see around Abuja, the pedestrian bridges you see on Nnamdi Azikiwe was done through a $10 million World Bank intervention. And those bridges were designed to help the pedestrians in Abuja. So today, we're invited here to commemorate these 10 years of hard work. I want to leave you with 3 key messages. Number 1, and luckily the Minister of Transportation is here, the FCT Minister is here, the Governor of Kebbi State is here. Number 1 is that road safety is a shared responsibility. The federal government cannot manage road safety. They can only provide the framework for managing road safety. Most of the crashes that occur, what kill people are happening in local roads and in state roads. So the FRSC is overstretched. They have a lot to do on our highways, which, by the way, is another major bloodbath area. Contrary to public perception, one of the worst roads in Nigeria is Abuja-Kubwa Express Road going to Zuba. Another terrible road in Nigeria is Abuja-Kaduna Expressway. When you add Hawankibo going to Lafia, then you see where the bloodbath happens. It's about 10 in the morning now. Between now and 12 and 1 p.m., it's bloodbath on these 3 roads. No day passes, and for some reason, it is worse on Mondays. Tuesdays are fairly light, then Thursdays and Friday, the bloodbath continues. And this happens between 10 o'clock in the morning to 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And the reason is because the FRSC cannot manage the whole stretch of the federal roads in Nigeria, which is about 36,000 kilometers. So we need a shared responsibility. We need the states to set up their state motor vehicle administrations, to improve their VIO network, to do road markings on their highways, to provide pedestrian walkways. We need to share this responsibility. We need the NGOs like KRSD to work together with the FRSC to do education. Education works. Telling people about the road and training them about the road works. It reduces road crashes on our highways. The second one is that we need engineering. We need to build roads that forgive. The concrete barriers on our roads are killers. Human beings are bound to make mistakes, so our roads must forgive the mistakes. In most of the world, they are using recycled plastic materials to create road dividers. so that when road crashes occur, people can survive. We need to transition to roads that forgive, and that is where engineering comes in very handy. We need to engineer our roads that drivers will remain engaged on the road. If you go to Sweden, they don't build straight highways anymore. They bend the highways so that drivers will continue to be engaged with the road. You don't fall asleep. So we need engineering. Then the last one, we need enforcement. Every education without enforcement is entertainment. You must move from education to enforcement. And enforcement means that those who use our roads wrongly must pay a price for it. As Corps Marshal of the FRSC, I measured enforcement. And one of my measures of enforcement was fines paid by people. So people said FRSC had become a revenue agency. No, the fines were a key performance indicator of the quality of enforcement on the roads. So from about 500 million, we raised it to about 1.5 billion naira annually, because I told them, as I go through the roads, I see people misbehaving. They must pay a price for it. So we must continue to enforce road behavior in Nigeria, to enforce the laws in Nigeria. And finally, today, I think there is need for more synergy with NGOs like KRSD. I think there is need for governments to partner with private organizations to take the message to our children in the secondary schools. We have successfully put road safety in the curriculum of the secondary schools in Nigeria. Now is the time for the government to ensure that all schools are teaching the students road safety behavior. Now is the time. On this note, I want to thank everybody and to say that 10 years of hard work, 10 years of committed advocacy, 10 years of putting her pain and sorrow into the survival of Nigerians is 10 years worthy of congratulations, is 10 years worthy of support, and I would like us to rise and give a standing ovation to Justice Manson for these 10 years of hard work. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you so much. May we give the chairman of this occasion another resounding round of applause. We shall soon be watching a documentary that perfectly illustrates how traffic crashes affect human lives in Nigeria in a jiffy. Just before we proceed on that, I wish to introduce some important dignitaries that just came into the hall. May I recognize the President, National Industrial Court of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Benedict B. Kanyip. We also have with us the Presiding Justice, Makurdi Division of Court of Appeal, Honorable Justice Ignatius Igwe Agube. We have the representative of the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ihanire, represented by Dr. Emuren Dobra. We have His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kaduna State, His Excellency Malam Nasir El-Rufai, represented by the DG Kaduna State Roads Agency, Engineer Paul Mark. We also have the National Coordinator Special Marshals, represented by Dr. Sini Kwabi. And we have the French Embassy, represented today by the Secretary, Interior Security Attaché, Zangwe Jackie Mariette. Thank you so much.
It is now time for us to watch the documentary and hopefully learn a little bit more about what the KRSD is doing. Please, can we have the documentary?
safety demand, an NGO that is committed to educating the public. It was actually founded in memory of a late son who was hit by a vehicle in Jos and ran away. And today we are counting the benefits of this singular experience, which you too can actually learn from.
On the 23rd day of September 2011, I lost my son. He was killed by motorists. The motorist knocked him down and did not stop to help him. He left him on the road and he bled to death. By the time some help came, he was lifeless. At his burial on the 30th day of September 2011, I wondered if that was all. And I determined that that would not be all. I thought of all the other people who might also die like my son. Set up to establish the KWAPDA'S road safety demand. And our aim is to educate, to enlighten, and to appeal to road users to help to stop the unnecessary and untimely death of innocent motorists.
KWAPDA was a very jolly person, and once he had an idea about the senior executive to do whatever he wanted to do, he would go ahead to make sure that he did it at the end. It was unfortunate that he passed away too early. Too early, that is in our own sense. We wish he had stayed on to this stage, so that as the first son of our own, he would take over from me when I also go to where God was. He was quite courageous and hardworking.
23rd of September 2011, I was coming from town when I met some like 6 or 7 people around. Then I decided to come down and check. Then they said the vehicle knocked the young guy. It was the next day I had that's vivid like I remember. Which after some years there was awareness this project like this Europe hotel.
KWAPDA'S Samson Rangnam Dongban, my dear friend, has been gone for about 10 years now, but we're feeling very much with us today. I met KWAPDA'S for the first time in 1991, then we were in Form 1. He was that tall, lanky fellow, KWAPD, as we were fond of calling him at that point. Very quiet, unassuming, very hard to penetrate if you didn't know what to look out for. But he was someone who was also very passionate about life. And he was also passionate about bettering people that were close to him. We were in the same class. I saw the way he treated his siblings, and he taught me a lot about siblings and the fact that those were given to you by God.
Over the years, KWAPDA'S road safety demand has worked to contribute significantly to reducing road accidents by advocacy and campaigns for safer roads. Our collaboration and strategies with other NGOs, the Federal Road Safety Commission, Nigeria Youth Corps, and some international NGOs has yielded great results in eradicating the occurrence of road traffic fatalities and serious injuries in Nigeria, Africa, and the entire world.
For the past 10 years, KRSD Foundation has been passionate in its campaign for road safety in Nigeria. Our intervention drive is centered on these 4 areas. advocacy, road safety education and training, victim support, and road safety research. To meet the targets set out in the Sustainable Development Goals 3.6, which the strategy is based on safe system approach. The foundation focuses on Pillar 4, road user behavior, and Pillar 5, post-crash response of the UN Global Plan for the Decade of Action for Road Safety.
Our vision: to ensure healthy, safe, and secure road practices for road users in Nigeria and bring down the occurrence of accidents on our roads. Our mission: to ensure that more quick response units are installed on our highways, to sustain public campaign on proper road safety values and practices, orienting the mindset of road users to show support and compassion for one another. Our values: keep travelers safe on our roads, dignifying life by caring for fatally injured, being exemplary in conduct and setting standards for road users.
Some of these challenges we have come across in our campaign are major ignorance of road signs, road safety regulations, insufficient implementation of existing rules, and the attitude of people.
KWAPDA'S road safety demand assessed 2 schools in Nigeria to improve the safety of school children in Abuja and Jos using international road assessment programs. KWAPDA'S road safety demand drafted 2 proposed bills to the National Assembly. The first, road crash victims compensation, and the second, punitive bill against road traffic violators. The first has been submitted to the House Committee. KWAPDA'S road safety demand team visited 6 trauma centers in Nigeria, with over 64 road traffic victims being reached out to with cash and relief materials. The KRSD Annual National Road Safety Essay Competition, in collaboration with FRSC, KRSD has awarded over 27 NYC Corps members. This is to encourage Nigerian youth to be an advocate for road safety and to also imbibe road safety principles. KWAPDA'S road safety demand has trained more than 150 drivers nationwide on defensive driving and improved methods of rescue and road traffic psychology and driver's behavior.
You will agree with me that that was a very informative insight into the mind of the founder of the KRSD. From the vision that was born out of adversity, we have seen what can be rightly described today as making good out of a terrible situation. We would like to invite now to give the founder's speech, the founder of the KWAPDA'S Road Safety Demand Foundation and the president of the Court of Appeal, in the person of the indefatigable visionary, Honorable Justice Monica B. Dongba-Mensem, President of the Court of Appeal. Please, my Lord, can you come forward and give the founder's speech?
Well, let me start by saying thank you to God Almighty for bringing us all here safely and keeping us alive and healthy, and to thank you all for coming. I would like to apologize about protocol. I always have an issue with it, you know. There are many people here, their excellencies, governors, ministers, their royal highnesses, senators, my constituency, which is always left out in everything. When the MC recognized, the dignitaries, he left out the judiciary. And it's okay, we are the chief hosts here, with utmost due respect to our minister, our governor, the minister of the FCT. So my lords, my fellow special marshals, of course, before that, our officers of the FRSC, and you see how it is. You keep on going back and forth, upside down. So please, everybody here is very, very important. Everyone here is very well recognized. Please forgive our inadequacies and do not feel undermined in any way. So please, let us deem that everybody has been duly recognized as they ought to be recognized. I thank you all for your understanding. Thank you. For the past 10 years, we have been making speeches about road safety. Every year, they will call the founder to come and talk. And the talk, now the same talk, now road safety. My speech is in the program for today, and I would like to spare us the trouble of repeating it, because I'm sure a good number of you will want to read what is in our journal. That's the 10th anniversary journal. I urge you, please, to take time to read the journal. So I would just want to tell some stories that will give us an idea of, what we are about. You see, it's not easy to lose a child. When I was mourning my son, a few weeks after he died, a lady came to my house in Jos and said, I have had a similar experience. And all that she was saying did not mean anything to me until she said that I've had a similar experience. I have I've had it 3 times. So I was startled, and I looked at her. I said, "What do you mean?" She said to me, she miscarried 3 children. I didn't ask her what is the age of the pregnancy, but obviously it didn't come to full term, which is supposed to be 9 months. 36 weeks. I carried all my children for 40 weeks. They didn't want to come out, especially KWAPDA'S. Maybe he was scared. So the doctors had to induce him to come out. But from the first point up to the time the child comes out, you already have an association with the child. All my 4 children, I saw their mannerism and their character in the 2nd month of my pregnancy, all of them. So it is a very difficult thing to lose a child, and to lose a child without the opportunity of consoling him or her. At least if a child is sick, is in the hospital, you take care of him, you do your best, you hold his or her hand, you comfort him, and finally he dies. You know that you've done your best. But when your child goes out, you're expecting him back for dinner, and you're called and said he's dead. You start wondering, what do they mean? Well, people don't joke about death. Your Excellencies, our distinguished guests, the story of KWAPDA'S is repeated every day on our roads. You heard the former Corps Marshal, Chief Chidoka. And Chief Chidoka, I thank you very much, because in my confusion, he said I came to him in December, in 2012. It was not in 2012. It was in 2011, shortly after my son's death, because I was restless. I wanted to do something. And I thought the best place to go was FRSC. And the then Chief Corps Marshal, Chief Chidoka, understood my story and helped me. At least it helped us, he helped us to settle down quickly by assigning to us some officials of FRSC and the special marshals. And I think Dr. Kwame, who is here representing the chairman, was very, very supportive also. Indeed, they are great people, this FRSC. Whoever thought about it thought well, and it's an institution that we need in our nation. In the course of advocacy in KRSD, we have taken our campaign to motor parks, to hospitals, to traditional rulers, to schools. And there are a few stories that stand out. A few months ago, we lost Mohammed Fahemi. He was a lawyer. He was involved in a crash and was deformed. He was disabled from the waist down. And he granted an interview. Well, he continued to practice. He took over from his father. He worked in his father's chambers, Chief Gani Fahemi. And he said, as part of his interview with the journalists, that life has been very difficult. And he desired to marry. But each time he had a girlfriend, the association will end somehow without the marriage. And finally, he decided that there was no need to get married. He didn't want to put anybody into distress. He elected to endure his pains. And he died, I think, at the age of 50, some few months ago. I went to Lagos twice to visit him, but I didn't have the courage to face him because I saw in him my son. And my son would have been 42 years this year. He died at 32. So, in Jos, we went to the hospital to visit crash victims. And I remember these three ladies, very pretty ladies, but you could see pain and frustration written all over them. Their father had been in coma I think for 6 months then. He was knocked down by a hit-and-run driver. Their life had been shattered. They will have to plead with their bosses every day to allow them to go to the hospital to see their father. He was not talking to them. His condition did not in any way improve, but they could not abandon him. They kept going. In Morocco, Marrakesh, when we went for one of the road safety conferences, I met a couple. This young girl, wheeling her husband back and forth. The husband was involved in a motor crash, and he too was paralyzed from waist down. And I could imagine the stress that this young girl was going into. I had a brief association with the man, and I felt the pains of both himself in a different way and his young wife in a different way. She would wheel him to the conference hall and then go out and sit outside waiting for the conference to be over. And she would come back and wheel him back to their room. I can imagine when you are immobilized, it can be very difficult. You get very irritable, very irritated by anything. You don't appreciate anything anybody is doing to you. So you can imagine what that young girl was going into. Her life had been shattered by an uncaring motorist. In 2012, there was this story in The Nation. The man told of his experience. He witnessed an accident. We call it road crash now by international standards. The motorist did not bother to stop. And he noticed that the man, the victim, was struggling. So he went to help him. He tried to stop vehicles. None would stop. And he was rushing to get to his office. He had to explain he needed to be in the office on time. So he was able to get one good Samaritan who stopped. And he took the man to the station. And he said he handed him over to a uniformed person. I do not know, in Lagos there are many uniformed people. So he said when he left the man with the uniformed man, the man had 2 ATM cards. And the man was conscious. So if it were money they needed, he would have been able to tell them maybe his PIN and they would withdraw money and take him to the hospital. But the story said that at about 5 p.m., when he got back, he decided to check the station to see what happened, if anybody saw this man. He found the man's dead body with 1 ATM card in his pocket. Somebody failed to take care of him and rather stole his ATM card. Like some people ignored my son on the road and stole his phone. Because he had his phone, he was making calls. He went out, credit. Maybe he knew he was going to die, I do not know. But he just crossed the road, that his younger brother was just next door. If only somebody picked the phone and called the last dial number, maybe my son would have been saved, maybe not. So the story is about us. My son is gone. He will not come back. I wish he could. But it is about us, we, Nigerians, fellow human beings. How are we relating? How are we helping each other? That's the point. You knock down somebody and you just drive away. Of course, we don't want to be in trouble, but you've left somebody in trouble, helpless. So our appeal is that we should care for one another. Our slogan is dignify your life by saving a life. I plead with you, make a keep road safety demand of yourself. Those are initials of my son. I use them to talk to people. His name is KWAPDA'S. Keep road safe. We use those, his initials. Kick out rush. KWAPDA'S. Rangnan. Take time. Talk to other people. When your children are going out, plead with them to take care of themselves and other road users. Be mindful of what you are doing. We have interviewed so many drivers, and some of the taxi drivers tell me, when we are driving, all we look at is the tire of the car in front of us. And I said, why do you do that? He said, because I want to know, so I can move forward. If he's going this way, I'll just squeeze myself and go this way, and I go. So it doesn't matter to you whether it's not a human being that is driving the car. He said, well, as long as I can move. We have intervened in road situations and found that a good number of people, motorists on the road, are totally ignorant about the rules of good driving. And many people, if I may ask, I don't want to embarrass our guests, since we got our last driving license, when have you taken time to sit in a class and listen to review your driving skills, the rules you know? But many things have changed about the vehicles that we are driving. We need to take time to learn, but how many of us are patient enough? Even if you don't drive, how about your driver? I know my driver, okay, he knows how to drive, but he doesn't know anything about the other parts of the car. He doesn't know how to maybe use the applications that are put in the car. He needs training. And when we go to institutions and ask them to allow us to train their drivers, they think it's not necessary. How is it not necessary? It's absolutely necessary. Drivers must be trained and retrained. Over the past 10 years, we've tried to reach, our construction companies, our transport companies, and very few of them, have responded to us. But we've refused to be daunted. We have continued, and we believe that one day, somehow, everybody will listen and decide to do something. If you say somebody should do something about it, it means that nobody is doing anything about it. So every one of us should do something about road safety. Many families are devastated. Many families are wasting away in pains, in silence. The insurance companies are not helping much. We have this third-party insurance policy, which everybody takes because it is a government requirement. And you can buy the third-party insurance anywhere on the streets. There is no responsibility attached to it. Like Chief Chidoka said, we need enforcement. I am an advocate of heavy fines and responsibility to be imposed on anyone who causes pain to another by driving recklessly. But song Allah Bani. We always say, it's not true. God wants us to be reasonable. That's why He gave us sense. That's why He gave us intelligence. Don't push it to God. We all have a responsibility. The government cannot do everything, but the government has to put regulations, stiff penalties in place to ensure that motorists drive safely on our roads. And those who don't want to drive safely should pay. Lagos State is doing a lot. Lagos State is very conscious of road safety, maybe because they have few roads and too much of water. I know that Kebbi State is doing a lot. We are aware that Kebbi State stops and intervenes on road safety. Maybe too because they have a lot of landmass. So please, keep up the good work. And those who are sitting on the fence, please sit up. Join us. It's a big battle. It's a very big battle. Each time I watch TV and they put on the screen how many people have died of COVID-19, I say to myself, do they know how many people are dying of road safety every day? So road safety should take the front burner. It deserves that attention because we are all involved. If you travel by air all the time, can the plane land on your bed? Will you not drive from the airport to your room? If it lands at your backyard, will you not walk from there to your house? Do you know what will happen between that time? There's this story about this man who's anytime, when he got a car, anytime he was going out, his wife would say, come back safely. He said, no, I'm not going far away, I'm just going here. Until one day somebody knocked him at his own door gate, at his own gate. So each time, after the experience, each time he was going and do, the wife said, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, because until you experience it, you may not know it. In, I think, Akonga, there are some people who were killed. They were sleeping, and a vehicle rammed into their mud house and killed them. They were not walking, they were not on the road. So no one is safe. No one is safe. I thank you all very much. I recognize my colleagues from the Abuja division. They had to sit this morning before coming to join us. Anyway, this is not about judges. It's about road safety. But adjudication is sacrifice. Road safety is sacrifice. If you don't sacrifice, one day you will be a victim. May we not be victims. Thank you very much. God bless us all.
May we please accord her a standing ovation for sacrifice, for saving lives. May we be seated, please. Just while she was giving that emotional but truthful speech, we witnessed the arrival of the chairman, Governors Forum, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ekiti State, Dr. John Kayode Fayemi. We also witnessed the arrival of the chairman, Northern Governors Forum, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Plateau State, Right Honorable Simon Bako Lalong. Moving forward, I have the privilege to bring forth to the podium the representative of the host of this memorable occasion, Assistant Commercial Amuche Agnes Waka, PhD, Fellow National Institute, to give a brief address on behalf of.
I beg to align myself to the already established protocol. And I bring you greetings from the Corps Marshal Federal Road Safety Corps, Dr. Boboye Oyeyemi, who is unavoidably absent due to exigencies of duty. I'll just quickly read the text of the message from him on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of KWAPDA'S Road Safety Demand Foundation. I am delighted to be part of this memorable event. It is an event with a demonstrable import considering the avoidable road traffic crash situation we are contending with nationwide. This anniversary renews our hope in the possibility of having a crash-free society. The commemoration of KRSD reminds us of the need for all road users, especially our numerous motorists, to yield to the values of decades of advocacy on road safety. The priority of every government the world over is the safety of lives and property of the citizens as they move from one place to another. The federal government has demonstrated this through the establishment of Federal Road Safety Commission. As a responsive and responsible organization, the Corps has a duty to ensure the safety of all road users in line with its statutory mandate. In the last 3 decades, the Corps has designed measures, devices, and strategies for the effective road traffic administration and safety management in Nigeria. Our priority has always been the creation of awareness on the need for a better road safety culture among our teeming population. Majority of the victims of road traffic crashes in Nigeria are young people within the productive age with great potentials for personal and national development. Besides the traumatic experience of the affected families, such losses impact negatively on the socio-economic growth of the country. The narrative underscores the significance of this routine event, organized in memory of a promising young man who was a victim of this social malady. At the end of this week-long interface, we expect that the shared experiences and knowledge gained will culminate in effective sensitization of all and sundry towards road safety consciousness and ideals. This anniversary expounds the global understanding that road safety is a collective responsibility that requires collective action. Let me use this opportunity to appreciate the founder of KRSD, Honorable Justice Monica B. Dongwa-Mensem, and the esteemed leadership of the foundation for the consistency and the avowed commitment to road safety advocacy. This anniversary is particularly unique as it marks a decade of selfless sacrifice towards making the Nigerian roads safe. And I wish all guests at this event a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the representative of our host, the Corps Marshal, Dr. Boboye Oyeyemi. Next, we would like to invite to the stage the chief host, and as we colloquially call him, the governor of the FCT, our own Honorable Minister, Mohammed Bello, to come and give us his brief address.
Your Excellencies, governors, ministers, royal fathers, our host, and the chairman of the foundation, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with your kind permission, I would like to stand on the already established existing protocols. On behalf of the city of Abuja and its residents, it's my honor to be here today and to welcome you to this very important occasion. I don't have much to add because really the last two speakers, that is my dear friend Chief Osita Chidoka and Her Excellency Honorable Justice Monica Dengba Mensen, have said it all. I have had the good fortune of meeting Her Lordship a few years ago at an international conference on road safety. That was my first time of meeting her, and I was truly moved and amazed by the amount of effort I saw in her. And I had wondered, because when she was introduced to me as a serving justice of the Court of Appeal then, I found it difficult to relate her calling as a very senior member of the bench in Nigeria, as well as the NGO she was representing. And then over the years, I've met her severally on a number of issues, one of which is road safety. This is something that affects all of us, and I wish to reiterate our commitment in the FCT administration to see what we can do to improve on road safety. My association with the Federal Road Safety Corps and this particular NGO and a few other organizations has made me realize that actually it's not good roads that prevent accidents. In most of the fora I go, all the research turns to human factor. Even in cases where accidents occur and immediate attention is not provided, it's still the human aspect. And I think that's something that we really need to work on as a people. Particularly, which was not mentioned, is the fact that at scenes of accidents, instead of everybody trying to provide the needed help, people are more concerned on the number of pictures they're able to take and how fast they're able to upload and distribute to the wider public. I think that is really unfortunate. So I want to encourage you, Ma, to continue what you are doing. It's a tough job, but it has to be done. And what you've been able to achieve over the last 10 years clearly has shown what is possible and feasible. And God will continue to strengthen you by being able to combine your onerous duty as the President of the Court of Appeal as well as this passion of yours. So on behalf of all of us here, and indeed the citizens of the FCT, I assure you of our continuous support, and may God Almighty continue to give you the wisdom, health, capacity to continue with this struggle. Thank you very much.
If those hands are not too busy, may we put them together again for the Honorable Minister. We shall now be listening to the keynote speaker on this memorable day today. But before I bring up the keynote speaker, who is the National Focal Person and Country Director, United Nations Decade of Action on Road Safety and Injury Prevention, Nigeria, Professor Sydney Ibanusi. May we give him a resounding round of applause. I wish to acquaint you with his brief curriculum vitae. Professor Sydney Ibanusi is the National Focal Person and Country Director, United Nations Decade of Action on Road Safety and Injury Prevention, Nigeria. He is the first professor of acute care surgery in the West African region. That is a new specialty. He is a consultant, orthopedic, trauma reconstruction, and critical care surgeon, University of Port Harcourt. He is a professor of ortho-trauma and acute care surgery, trauma emergency medicine, and critical care, University of Port Harcourt. He is also a fellow, Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh General Surgery, fellow, West African College of Surgeons, Orthopedic and Trauma, fellow, National Postgraduate College of Nigeria, Orthopedic and Trauma, postgraduate certified minimally invasive spine surgery, fellow, American College of Surgeons, Trauma, Acute and Critical Care, fellow, National Postgraduate Medical College of Emergency Medicine, among others. He is also a member steering committee, African Regional Road Safety Observatory, also the director, head Trauma Emergency and Disaster Response Division, Federal Ministry of Health, National Coordinator, Ambulance Transportation System for COVID-19. He is the Secretary, National Emergency Treatment Committee, 2020 to 2021, member and Medical Incident Commander, National Counter-Terrorism Working Group, Office of the National Security Advisor, Presidency. He is also the visiting scholar and research fellow in trauma, emergency, and critical care, Harborview Trauma Center, University of Washington, USA. He is also the team lead and coordinator, accreditation of institutions for the training of paramedics in Nigeria. Professor Sydney Ibanusi is the Foundation Council member, Faculty of Emergency Medicine, National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. And lastly, he is the senior examiner for postgraduate fellowships in orthopedics and trauma, post-fellowship certificate in trauma and acute care surgery and emergency medicine for both West African College of Surgeons and National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. Permit me to bring forth Professor Sydney Ibanusi. You're welcome.
The representative of the Vice President of the country, the convener of this very important event and founder of the KRSD, the chairman of the occasion, Your Excellencies, permit me to align myself to the existing and established protocols. My talk this morning will be on the theme of this very important occasion, and it has to do with managing speed as it relates to road crashes and injuries. Speed has been identified as a major causative factor, directly or indirectly, when you talk about road crashes. Now, if we look at the background story, we've had that this morning. I may not have to repeat it again. A flashing young gentleman who had committed to serving his nation about 10 years ago was suddenly knocked down by an unidentified driver who could not have the passion to offer help or assistance to a fellow being, and more importantly, a fellow Nigerian who was out to serve his nation So he sped off. And from what we heard this morning, up to date, the driver has not been identified. So no punishment had been meted. Unfortunately, there was no assistance from people around. We even learned that the persons who tried to assist took him to a center where he could be treated and was rejected and was brought back to the scene of the incident. And by the time help could come, unfortunately, it was too late. So, that driver possibly must have been driving at an excessive speed, certainly beyond 30 kilometers per hour, which is currently advocated. If not, I'm sure the outcome would have been different. Now, going by that story, who are we going to blame? The driver or the system? Perhaps both. The driver was a product of a system that required repair. If driver committed an offense and up to today cannot be identified, the gentleman who had the crash could have been taken to a center and could have been saved. If actions were taken at the appropriate time, I'm sure the story would have been different. Forget about the crash that had happened. I'm sure if he was given initial first aid and properly treated, he probably would be living, maybe deformed, but he would be alive. So the system failed him. He went to serve the system, but the system did not respond as it should. And I'm glad that we've learned a lesson from that event, and that's why we're gathered here today. To make our own contribution, like the KRSD has done, in terms of advocacy, in terms of finding solutions to address and correct this type of situation so that it does not repeat. If we fail to do that, then we have no person to blame. It means we are part and parcel of the shared collective responsibility. Now, let's talk about the background facts about road crashes. We all know some of these stories. Over about 1.4 million persons die globally every year, and over 50 million persons are maimed. Unfortunately, about over 90% of these crashes occur in middle and low-income countries like ours, and paradoxically, Africa constitutes a greater proportion of those persons that die, despite that Africa owns only about 13% of world motor vehicles. Again, even in the developed economies, persons of low socioeconomic group suffer more from issues of road crashes. So the question is, are road crashes, is it a cause for poverty? Maybe, or maybe not. Again, more than half of the persons that die from these incidents are vulnerable road users. Who are the ones who are vulnerable? The passengers, the pedestrians, and the cyclists. These are people who are not properly protected to resist the effects of these crashes. And among the persons that die, again, persons between the ages of less than 29 years are more. And incidentally, our population is a young population. Less than 30% of the people are 50 years and above. So it's more like an epidemic in our type of society. And the sizable proportion of these crashes are related to speed. Let me not bore you with some of the issues relating to road traffic crashes, but the consequences are huge. The social economic impact, losing up to 3 to 5% of GDP, means that if we're able to tackle the issue of road safety, we could be saving up to 9 to 12 trillion naira, which is close to our annual budget. So I think it's time the government starts investing in it. So from transportation area, we can actually save enough to fund our national budget. Based on the issues related to road safety, the Decade of Action was pronounced in 2011. Unfortunately, the incident we are marking today happened just about 4 months after the launch of that Decade of Action in 2011. And the target was set to reduce the number of crashes by 50%, by the year 2020. However, that target was never met, particularly because the countries in the developing and the underdeveloped countries could not meet the target. Most countries in the developed world were able to meet that. Now the UN, realizing that it's not possible to eliminate road crashes, decided to alter the target and fixed that by the year 2030, the second decade of action should come into play, and by then we should be able to have the number of persons who are killed or maimed from road crashes by 50%. Realizing that we cannot completely eliminate crash, but when the crash do occur, let it be that people do not die. So the system should be forgiving enough. The issue of forgiving roads, forgiving vehicles, and all that have been put in place. So this system is called safe system approach. The question is the target achievable? Maybe. Now let's talk about the issue of speeding in road traffic management. Speeding, some people will say over-speeding, but speeding means you're driving excessively appropriately for the particular road, at the particular time, or the particular condition. This is not a fixed thing, because once the condition changes, it means the speed that was set, even if the speed limit on that road is set at a particular point, the condition now does not permit you to drive at that speed. And a significant proportion of crashes are attributable to this speed. Statistics from the Federal Road Safety in the country and Nigerian Bureau of Statistics show that as of 2019, 47% of crashes are attributable to speed. The type of speed we're talking about is either excessive speed when you're beating the set speed limit, or inappropriate speed for the condition or type of road at the particular time. We all share in this issue. Over 90% of Nigerians at one point in time or the other will beat the speed limit. We're either rushing or that, and that is a global effect actually, because even in Europe, up to 67% of persons do not have that. But when you are hit at a higher speed, the chances of death and severe injury becomes more. Now, it's observed that if you cut the average speed by 1 kilometer per hour in Europe, that up to 2,000 lives can be saved over the year. So if we're able to adopt that in the country and achieve saving up to 2,000 lives like they did in Nigeria, means the figures that we are getting, about 5,600 persons dying every year, would have already halved it. It means we've achieved the target that is set for 2030 even before the onset of the implementation. The speed is measured by speed limit, the average speed of the traffic, and then the 85th percentile speed means the speed where 85% of the people do not drive beyond. There are factors that impact speed-related crashes. These factors include the design of the road, the system, safe systems available in the vehicles, the difference in the mass, and the vulnerability of road users. I have listed the speed limits in the country, but I have highlighted those of bicycles, tricycles, which was not originally included because they also constitute part of the problem. If you're riding a cycle or a tricycle, you must know the speed limit. It's only when you know that you should be able to keep to it. Now, the risk of death and crashes increases as the speed increases. At 30 kilometers per hour, 1% chance or less of dying. But once you hit 40 kilometers per hour, you multiply that factor by 2. And by the time you're hitting 60 kilometers per hour, it has multiplied by almost 20 times, and almost 60 times by 70 kilometers per hour. So the chances of death is much, much higher. Now, practically, if you increase the speed of your travel by 20 kilometers per hour, let's say you're traveling at 100 kilometers set, and you increase it to 120 because you want to get to Kaduna from Abuja quickly, that's about 200 kilometers, you only gain just about 20 minutes. The question is it worth your life? If you're traveling from Abuja to Kano, you only gain just under 40 minutes. So it's actually not worth it. Why do people speed? The people speed because they want to match the speed of average traffic. Other people say they're in a hurry, while others just enjoy it for fun. They want to drive fast. And out of boredom, they decide to drive excessive speed. Others are unaware of the speed they're driving because the speedometer is not functional. They have not checked their speedometer, so they're just running. Again, others will tell you there's no signage. There's no signage on the road, so they don't even know the speed they're supposed to drive. But if you're a good driver, you should have a background knowledge of the type of road and the speed limit you should be driving on this speed, default speed limits. The main reason why people observe speed limits, the major reason why people observe speed limits is fear of a risk of paying fine. So issues or concerns of road safety is minimal in their consciousness or willingness to obey the law. Rather, they are afraid of fine. So the people that talk about paying huge fines for defaulting may be right. Now, who are the culprits? If you look at the demographics of the culprits, you have the younger drivers, particularly male, and then drivers who travel to work against people who are traveling for other purposes, and then persons that drive very powerful, comfortable, and higher vehicles. They want to enjoy their vehicle. They want to have invested heavily to procure these vehicles, power bikes, so they want to enjoy it. Now, besides the four-wheeled or more vehicles, we should not forget tricycles, the motorcycles and bikes, and then bicycles. They should not also be forgotten because the riders and the passengers in these other vehicles are very vulnerable. So even at lower speeds, they are more exposed to injuries and deaths than they have in the four-wheeled vehicles. The consequences of speed. Having talked about the facts, what are the consequences? It is a function of kinetic energy that is either disseminated on the victim or absorbed by the victim. And this energy, once it's pushed out, is transformed from one part to the other part of energy. It is not lost, so it's within the system. So it's how you're able to contain it that determines how you're able to withstand it. Now, at a very high speed, the vehicles or the driver has a difficulty in time to react to sudden brakes, and then even the approaching vehicle and other road users have difficulty in avoiding collision. Again, the driver's vision is also narrowed. So as the speed increases, your vision narrows. If you're driving at 130 kilometers per hour, you have a tunnel vision. So you're not even seeing dispersely to see other hazards. You just drive like that. So the reason why you must stay below the speed limit or within the speed limit. Part of the problem is not just the force of impact. Even as the vehicle suddenly stops, the force of deceleration also kills. For want of time, I would have played this video for you people to see. It's a common video that I have circulated, but it would have been nice for you to know that it's not just the force that hits, that kills you. Even the force of stopping, the deceleration, also will contribute to the problem. Now, in this country, Federal Road Safety Corps confirmed as of 2013 that 32% of crashes and injuries were all speed related. As of 2019, it has gone up to 47%. It means the problems continue to creep up. So something has to be done, and done quickly. When the airport in Abuja was closed in 2017, and we had to divert flights to Kaduna, a task force was set up to manage activities on that road. There were shuttles. What we observed that the crashes that were recorded that period were all mainly speed related. For the ones that followed the road safety, the security, who were forced to drive below 100 kilometers per hour, there was no crash recorded. Yet we had about 2,500 shuttles between Abuja and Kaduna. So that means it can actually be tackled. The relationship between speed and crashes, at a lower speed, the relationship is linear. It's as this goes up, that goes. But once you hit about speed of 50, 60 kilometers per hour, the relationship becomes exponential. The steep rises sharply. The slope rises sharply. However, this sharp rise, again, is determined by the nature of road, how complex the road is. If you have a highway where speed can be permitted, the crashes may not be as much as if you drive even at a road that is very busy. The factors that influence the speed on crashes include the road design. We've talked about forgiving roads, introducing curves, vehicle design and safety systems in the vehicle, the difference in the mass or weight at the time of collision, and then the vulnerability of the victims. The vulnerability as a factor of age means that the older persons with less biologic reserve are more vulnerable than the younger ones. And then what of the role of the victim? Is he a passenger? Is he a driver? Is he a pedestrian? So the pedestrians, the passengers, and the cyclists who are more vulnerable tend to suffer more than even the drivers. So what are the solutions? The solution means that traffic crashes has to be prevented. Government needs to take action at all levels. It's not an issue of federal government this time. In fact, our experience from the UN Decade of Action on Road Safety and Injury Prevention in Nigeria confirms that greater proportion of the problem lies at the subnational level. Not just at the federal level. The federal government owns only 17% of the roads. Now, the states own at 25%, while the local government owns 65% of the roads. So, all efforts federal road safety has been doing at the federal level, no matter how impressive it can be, can easily be diluted by things not done at the subnational level. So, for effective intervention, you need to have a strong leadership and committed leadership. Good enough, during the 6th Global Road Safety Week, we paid advocacy courtesy to the Vice President, and he committed an ensuring of adhering to the 30 kilometer per hour speed limit within the built-up area where traffic commingles with individuals. Again, there needs to be improvement on safety measures of the vehicle, increased advocacy, education, and enlightenment, and most importantly, improve post-crash response. This gentleman died because the post-crash response was very, very abysmal. The UN Decade of Action on Road Safety and Injury Prevention is a holistic approach, geared that no one single agency can do it alone. We all have roles to play. We can plug ourselves into at any level. At the leadership level, at infrastructure level for the roads. So Federal Ministry of Works has a lot to do in terms of that, ensuring the roads are safe. And then also, and also the safety vehicle with necessary safety infrastructure. And then more importantly, the safer road user behavior, attitude. Speeding is an aggressive road user behavior. It's a road user problem. And why we are all here is the issue of advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. Now I want to talk about advocacy. The Federal Road Safety Corps actually has a model of 5 E's. When I talk about education, enlightenment, environment, enforcement, and then evaluation. Those are the 5 E's. And if you take these 5 E's and plug it in, then you will achieve a lot. You must educate the people. They must have to know 93% of or more of issues on road crashes are human related. Whether it's speeding, whether it's testing, whether it's non-use of seatbelt and all that, it's human related. So if you catch it there, you would have addressed the bulk of the issue. Incidentally, it's quite expensive. It's quite expensive. So there's committed efforts, not just by the government, The private sector has to be brought into this point. In the countries where they have gotten it right, most of the effects has to come from, funding comes from the private sector. The Bloomberg philanthropy and the FIA Foundation, they're all private sector driven. Now, the speed limits had to be set, had to be publicized, and people need to know. And they must have road signages. It mustn't be in English. The signages could just be in signs for persons who are not learned to be able to read. Say when you have heads crossing, you must show signs so that the commuters will know. And then it has to be enforced. They said if you cannot enforce it, then of course you cannot succeed. Law not enforced is no law. So enforcement is very important. But most importantly, the enforcement should come after advocacy. Because of our attitude in the country, where there's resistance to change, we may have to combine both enforcement and advocacy running together. There are various methods of enforcement. Penalty, I'm going to insist. There has to be penalty. Once the law is broken, you have to pay for it. Somebody has to pay. And the penalty could range from withdrawal of licenses, community service, huge fines, and imprisonment, and to serve as deterrent to people. Now we'll talk about several vehicles and technology. The issue of speed limiting device was introduced in this country, and we saw the resistance. It is a system that has worked, they've applied it in other countries, and they're getting results. So we have no reason not to implement it here. The problem is such law should be uniform. It should not be isolated to a particular, targeted at a particular class of people. That was the reason why the commercial commuters resisted it. Now, who should we target when we are advocating? The young people, and we've talked about it should start in primary and secondary schools, people who commit serious offense, and then, of course, awareness creation on risk behavior. Post-crash response. I'm just going to talk a little on that and I'll round up. Again, you cannot stop the crashes. They may have to happen. And when they do, what do you do? Post-crash response is not only medical. The emergency medical services, that's part of it. And it has to be prompt, proper, and appropriate. And it should not be discriminatory. You don't just go because this person is a big man, and then you go try to save him while you have a poor man who is more severely injured. It has to be uniform. If you do it right, you can reduce the chances of survival or increase the chances of survival by 6-fold. If you cannot do anything, let us enlighten Nigerians to show some empathy and compassion when this happens, and at least start by dialing the emergency toll-free number, which has been launched by Mr. President, 112. And of course, we also have 122. They're all functional. Just dial it and somebody will pick it up and set up the motion. The federal government of Nigeria have started to implement the emergency medical services and ambulance system by the Federal Ministry of Health. I'm sure it's going to be launched very soon. We actually sold that template to the African Union in 2018 under the chairmanship of former President Obasanjo, and African countries are adopting the Nigerian model. We are just about to roll out that model, and I'm sure some of us will come for the launch of that system in the country. Now, Your Lordship, you've talked about ignorance of the judiciary. Post-crash response, like I said, is not only medical. The judiciary has roles to play in the post-crash response because they are going to be people identifying and confirm the offenders and meting out the appropriate penalty for these offenders. Yeah, this is a summary of how to avoid pitfalls from speed. Plan your journey and set out on time. Check your speedometer, adjust to a particular condition for the journey. If it's raining heavily or if the weather is not looking so nice, you might have to plan your speed or plan your journey. And then you must increase the distance between you and the next vehicle. And most importantly, you must consider the other drivers. In conclusion, the chairman, distinguished guests, let me end this presentation by drawing on quotes from two notable Africans. Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, the Director General of WHO, he said, we need a new vision for creating safe, healthy, green, and livable cities. Low-speed streets are important part of that vision. As we recover and rebuild from COVID-19, let's make safer roads for a safer world. Again, another one from Zuleika Mandela, who's a personal friend and the granddaughter of Nelson Mandela. She also had a similar experience, like the convener had. In 2010, she lost her own daughter, who was also crossing the road, and she was knocked down, and of course, she died from that incident. So based on that, she also took up advocacy, and today, she's a global ambassador for Child Health Initiative, and she says, we want low speed, we want livable streets, and communities where we can walk safely, where our children can get to school unharmed. So we call for 30 kilometers per hour speed limit, and anything above that is death sentence. So distinguished guests, I thank you all for listening to me and the conveners of this, giving me opportunity to share my own brief knowledge on issues relating to road safety. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you will all agree with me that that was a very insightful and incisive presentation. Please, can we give the keynote speaker another round of applause? KRSD is not just a national or a regional institution. The reach and collaboration of this great foundation reaches far beyond the borders and the continent of Africa. And so it is meet that somebody, one of the collaborating partners from the United Kingdom, wants to also contribute to this great day. We will be taking a presentation, goodwill presentation, from Ms. Nicola Wass, who is the founder of the SOMO non-governmental organization in the UK. Nicola Wass has over 20 years experience of devising and delivering change programs, especially when it has to do with road safety. And since establishing SOMO in 2012, her passion for social innovation has led SOMO to design and build innovative interventions that have benefited communities, organizations, and governments, both nationally and internationally. She is known for her creativity and her ability to make lateral leaps and her drive to initiate fresh approaches to solving the problem of road safety. So we will now take the presentation from the founder of SOMO United Kingdom, Nicholas Wass. But before that, we would like to recognize the presence of His Excellency, Governor Nyesom Wike, the Executive Governor of Rivers State. Your Excellency, you're most welcome. And so we'll take the presentation now, please.
Hello, my name is Nicola Wass. I'm the Chief Executive of SOMO, which is a company based in the UK. I'm actually recording this from my office. And just to share with you a little bit about the work that we do and an opportunity that's coming up early next year. So a lot of our work is around behavioural change, and so much of that is in the field of road safety, where we have worked with governments, we've worked with local government, and we've also worked with international communities of NGOs, helping them to reduce the amount of road deaths and injuries that happen on the roads every year. And I just wanted to start really by thanking Justice Monica Dunbar-Mensam for inviting me to speak with you, to share this video today. And I also want to wish you every success in celebrating a decade of road safety advocacy in Nigeria. 10 years is a long time, and whilst progress has been made in global efforts to improve road safety, the reason you're all here today is because we all know that the need for the work of organisations such as yours is greater than ever. Over 1 million deaths a year are lost to road crashes, and 250,000 of that million occurs in Africa alone. I read the other day that an estimated 3/4 of road deaths are not reported in Africa. So if we take a moment to reflect on that, we can see that the scale of the challenge is absolutely huge. So I think one thing that has always felt really important to me is when we are looking at a global problem, is the ability to come together and to share and to learn from each other and to act together as global partners for change. And it was the basis of that started conversations between Monica and others from KRSD and the teams that work as part of that organisation, thinking about, well, what is it that we can do to help you and the work that you're doing, and for myself as well, to kind of learn from some of the work that you're doing and the things that you're achieving here on the ground in Nigeria. So from that, we came up with the idea of doing a training course to take 10 lessons to reflect the 10 years. And I'm hoping that as many of you as possible will be able to join us when we run that early next year. So we haven't got a lot of time because I know there's so much that you're planning to do over the next few days. So I'm going to keep this really brief, and I'm not going to cover everything that's in the training, but just pick out a few of the highlights. So first of all, I'm really excited to share with you something that we've used a lot before in road safety training, and it's SOMO's campaign canvas. And what that is it's a way to simply work out the things that are of most important priorities to you and to pull together the argument and the evidence to support that, all on one page without the need for writing lengthy reports. So this is something that we use, and so many of our partners, when we've shown them how to use it, have gone on to use it time and time again. It's a really useful resource. We'll be talking about how you build an evidence base, how you create an argument for change that other people can buy into. And as part of that as well, we'll be looking at how you can set really, really strong goals and objectives that are really clear and like I say, other people can buy into. But the best aims and ambitions in the world are no good if you can't make them happen. So one of the things that we'll also be covering in the training is how to design and deliver really well-managed, well-run projects. And we'll be going through quite a few practical tools and techniques. Some of these you will have used before, you will have come across before, but I also like to think that there'll be some things in there that perhaps you haven't come across before that will be really useful and you'll be able to apply in your work. Finally, my company, we use a lot of behavioural scientists, so people who understand the psychology of human behaviour. And not only does that help us to understand perhaps why errors that can lead to collisions happen on the roads, but there are also some insights we can take from the psychology of human behaviour and the psychology of how people make choices and enact certain behaviours that we can use to help improve our communications and to make our campaigns stand out from the rest. So we'll be sharing some thoughts on that. But finally, and certainly not least, one of the things that I found is so important when arguing for change, when advocating for change, is being able to show the impact of the work that you've done and the difference that it's made. And so the final thing we'll be covering on that kind of training is how to measure and to demonstrate impact. So that's it from me. I do hope you're able to join us. I'm really excited about this project. I'm really excited about working with you all and hearing more about the work that you do. So let me end by just wishing you every success and a fantastic set of celebrations looking at your decade of road safety advocacy in Nigeria. And I think, as I said at the beginning, it's true that we have such a long road ahead of us in our fight against needless death and injury. But whilst this is undoubtedly true, I really sincerely hope that you all take a moment to reflect on just how far you've come and to celebrate all that you have done and all that you've achieved on your 10-year journey to this day. So thank you very much. That's it from me, and have a wonderful few days.
Thank you very much to Nicola Was for the valuable contribution that she has just made. We will be taking a crash victim testimony for the next 5 minutes. As you know, a lot of the dialogue would make no sense unless we can tie it down to real-time experiences. So at this stage, we would like to invite Mr. Tabashima Jebe of the Coalition of Road Safety NGOs in Nigeria, COSAN, to please come forward and give his crash victim testimony. As we know, he lost his entire family, his wife and 3 children, to a road crash 2 years ago, and I believe that his insight will be very valuable to the discourse that is to come. So please, Mr. Jebe, can you come to the podium? Thank you. Well, I believe he may not be around. We'll move on swiftly to the panel session. And please, we would like to invite to the podium the moderator of the panel session, none other than the chairman of the occasion, Chief Osita Chidoka, OFR NPOM. Thank you very much. Please come to the podium. We would also like to invite to the platform at this point in time His Excellency, the Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi, the Honorable Minister of Transport, to please come and join the panelists. We would also like to invite the representative of the chairman of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Mrs. Stella Ungoke, who is the Deputy Director, Drug Demand Reduction Directorate. Please, can you come to the podium at this point in time?
We wish to also bring forward the Assistant Commercial in charge of Special Duties and External Relations, Assistant Commercial Aliu Dazama, FSI. In the same vein, I wish to most respectfully bring up the President, National Union of Road Transport Workers, Alhaji Professor Tajuddin Ibikule Banyua. You're welcome, sir.
At this stage, we will now hand over to the capable hands of the moderator, who will take over this particular panel session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and once again, welcome to this event. We are at this part of the event when we want to discuss about road safety. Interestingly, in Nigeria, we use the word road safety interchangeably with FRSC because we have the Federal Road Safety Commission. But road safety is a concept of its own. It's a concept that is multimodal. When I was commercial, they always asked, why is the FRSC in the presidency? I said, because road safety is a health issue, but it's not a health-only problem. It's an education issue, but it's not just an education problem. It's an enforcement issue, and it's not a police problem. It's also a emergency problem, so you need emergency recovery. So for me, road safety has been a passion because one of the reasons why I didn't end up schooling in Maiduguri was that in 1984, I spent most of my early days in Maiduguri. It was a very beautiful city. And on the way back in Christmas of '84, my auntie, my mom's only younger sister, died in a crash in Zakibiam. And she survived the crash, but they didn't know she was internally bleeding. So when she got there, they gave her a bottle of water to drink, and that was how she died. And it shifted our focus from Maiduguri. And that meant that road safety is usually not just a job, it is a passion for most of the people who get involved. There are some personal experiences that lead you to it. One of them is Emeka Ezera, who is the son of Dr. Kalu Ezera, my wife's cousin. He was doing his PhD at Harvard and came to Nigeria to do his thesis. And as he was going from Lagos to Benin on his way to the east, he had a road crash and died, and that ended that PhD at Harvard University. And that led the mother to become almost demented, because this was the second, he buried the husband in tragic circumstances, and now the son. So now that we have the Minister of Transport here, and this Minister of Transportation, road safety is a transport problem. It is a problem that has to do with mobility. Despite our efforts at mobility, there has been externalities associated with mobility, which is death on our roads. If the minister can share with us, are there plans to create more synergy between the federal government, the subnational government, states and local government, and is there a plan to improve the quality of our transportation networks to reduce the impact of trucks on our highway in the country? Honorable Minister.
Well, I will start by asking you that, letting you know that the question you asked conflicts with your concept of road safety being at the presidency. The fact that the Federal Road Safety Commission is in the presidency makes it difficult to supervise them. It's been extremely difficult. And yes, and at the beginning of this government in 2016, I wrote a memo to the president requesting that road safety be moved to the office of the Minister for Transport, to the Federal Ministry of Transportation. And the president sought the advice of basically two other ministers, or a minister and the SGF. The Minister for Works considered to that fact and said they should be moved to Federal Ministry of Transportation, and the SGF declined. And the argument was predicated on the fact that that was the law. Why should that law be like that? Because you see, the expertise of supervision of road safety lies in the Ministry of Transport, because they have trained staff that have to do with the management of roads. Now, the first thing to deal with when you're dealing with, and that's the basic thing I want to speak here before I leave. The basic thing to deal with when you're dealing with road safety is enforcement. Forget all those other stories you're talking about. Even this thing you're talking about, it's mere entertainment. We finish here, we go. Speed is psychological. It's crave. I drive. It's so sweet to speed. But there are no consequences for the outcome of speeding. If you say anybody who drives more than 30 kilometers per hour and kills somebody will go for manslaughter, as a minister, I will not go more than 30 kilometers per hour. But because there is no consequences, I will do 120, 150. And I will give you my experience in railway. Railway movement, when the train or the coach is moving, it has capacity for it to stop. It will be given 800 meters. It will not just apply the brake and it stops. If it wants to stop at Nyanya, at Kubwa, it will start 800 meters away. So anybody between 800 meters and the stop is gone, buried. That's how the two persons that were killed in Lagos died. Because by the time the driver suddenly saw the vehicle parked on the track, applied the brake, it was 200 meters to the driver. Cleared the driver, continued and stopped 800 meters. So the issue of road safety is chaotic when it comes to structure and organization. Nobody knows who's controlling, who is responsible. Nobody knows who should be indicted. So now you're asking me a question that's not meant for me, because it's not in my portfolio. So I'm going to answer you as a Nigerian who has contributions to make. But you see, if Road Safety Commission was located in Ministry of Transport, I'll be held accountable. Just like people say, oh, Amici, you're trying with railway. Have they told Minister for Works you're trying with railway? Because it's not his business. So the first thing to do in answering your question is, can we organize Road Safety Commission as law and locate it properly with the Ministry of Transportation and hold the Minister for Transportation responsible for either the reduction in the carnages or look at the figures you brought. In 2013, it was, is it 32% or so? Then it increased to 47%. Who have we held responsible? The minister who is in charge will be ashamed when he sees that kind of figure, that in his tenure, it moved from 13% to 32% to 47%. That's quite high. So for me to answer that question, I will just say, well, it is too chaotic. I can't answer you whether federal government will want to relate with state and with the local government, because there is no proper responsibility for me to wake up in the morning and put road safety in my to-do list. So we must advocate for that. Finally, is consequences. The problem with Nigeria is there are no consequences for action. You can do anything you like in Nigeria, anything you like. And I had advocated earlier in a conference like this that if we make the killing of people as a result of speeding on the road an offense of manslaughter, then everybody will be careful. Everybody will be careful. But because you don't have such consequences, anybody can speed as much as he likes. And I tell you, I'm representing Africa in United Nations Road Safety Trust Fund. So what am I doing there if road safety is not in my ministry? So why should United Nations write to me to represent Africa? Why? So I go there as thank God my CV will read one-time representative of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. You've raised important issues. Those are continuing conversations about the issue of road safety. For most part of the world, road safety institutions, there is none like Nigeria that have the kind of institution we have. Road safety coordinations are usually in the Office of the President, the Office of Prime Minister, or the Ministry of Health. Very rarely do you find them in the Ministry of Transportation. But in Nigeria, we have a peculiar situation where we have a dedicated agency for road safety, which is the idea that has led to both enforcement, speeding, post-crash care coming under one agency. It has its great advantages, but there are issues that impact driving. You talked about speeding and overspeeding, and you talked about punishment and consequences. One of the consequences of drink driving in the US, if you are caught drink driving, is that you will never be a trained driver. For you to qualify to be a trained driver, you must be searched in the DUI database. If you have ever been booked for drink driving, you can never be a pilot or trained driver in the US. So part of the consequences that we can create in Nigeria is databases of information. Because when we decided to make the offense of dangerous driving 50,000, what happened is that the officers will arrest you for dangerous driving. Why do you want to pay 50,000 if you can give him 10? And then he will charge you for light sign violation, which is 2,000. So you spend 12,000. So too much fines gave us the opposite view. We got more people getting away because the officers on the road decided to settle the matter there and then. So I had to rethink the idea of increasing the fines to be able to see how people can enforce those type of rules. But there is also an issue. The issue of drugs is a major issue amongst truck drivers in Nigeria. What is the NDLEA, coming back to the NDLEA, doing about the issue, the proliferation of drugs amongst drivers in Nigeria? Do you have any dedicated program for that?
Thank you very much for that question. Yes, the issue of drugs and accidents generally, particularly road crashes, cannot be overemphasized, particularly when you talk about the psychoactive drugs, whose main impact is on the brain. And these classes of drugs affect the brain in different ways. Here we are talking about the driver behind the wheels, whose brain is affected in one way or the other. Now, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, as part of its programs addressing the drug demand reduction activities in Nigeria, of course has a program and collaboration with many stakeholders in the country, particularly the Federal Road Safety Corps. We have sensitization programs for road transport workers and other road users. It's part of the program we have. And then, of course, drug education, just like the road safety program, is infused in the curriculum of schools in Nigeria, where young people are being drawn, the attention of the young people are being drawn to different issues concerning drugs and how drugs affect our lives as human beings. And this becomes very important when we look at the prevalence of drug use in Nigeria today, where the most recent data we have shows that about 14.3 million Nigerians use one type of drug or the other. And within this number, we have young people between the ages of 29 and 35 as the most vulnerable group. And if you ask me, we get majority of the people who drive one form of vehicle or the other at the commercial level and the private level in this age bracket. So the NDLEA has a lot of advocacy programs, sensitization programs for road transport workers and other individuals, as well as the enforcement duties of arresting and seizing all forms of drugs at our border posts, entry points into the country, and then other locations in the country. So it is a collaborative thing, and we are collaborating really with the major stakeholders. And the most recent program that the NDLEA has in place was launched by the president and the president of the country in June 26, 2021, when we joined the rest of the world to celebrate the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Drug Trafficking. And the president launched a program that he tagged War Against Drug Abuse, WADA, which is all about community engagement, community mobilization against the issue of drug. And every segment of Nigeria is part of this program, including the road transport workers, the road transport owners, and every segment of the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Drug is a major challenge in the driving sector. And part of the problem people used to ask me was the issue of driver training. Do we really have a driver training program for drivers? Are drivers trained before they get driver's license? And we have with us the head of the Driving Schools Association. We would like to hear, is the DSSP working? Are people being trained before they get driver's license in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. That is a big question, and it's a question that we have always been trying to address over the time. Really, as of today, even though the DSSP has been established to ensure that before you get your driver's license, you go to accredited driving schools for training, both theory and practical. But as of today, because of the lapses in the system, it is still possible for you to get your driver's license without even knowing the school that issued the certificate to you. To address this challenge, we put some pressure on the Federal Road Safety Commission. I personally led a team to the commercial to insist that a computer-based test should be established for the driving schools to administer in their various schools. before the generation of certificates, and that there should be an installation of camera in the system with other security measures. But as we all know, we have had some protests, some resistance from some segments of the country saying that, oh, some are not literate enough to do the CBT, the computer-based tests. And I protested also that, look, driving is no more for illiterates. And I wrote an article in the newspaper to that effect. In part of the presentations today, one of the presenters made a point that it is that the technology of the vehicles have really changed. It's dynamic. Today, most of the vehicles are computerized. When you are talking of illiteracy, we should not come to the issue of driving. It is not compulsory for everybody to drive. If you cannot interpret simple traffic signs on the road, you have no business driving. If you don't know the meaning of road markings, you don't have business driving. You can look for other jobs to do. But driving has gotten to a level that you must know the traffic signs, you must know vehicle dynamics, you must know vehicle technology. You should be able to drive safely on the road. Because when we are talking of human factors responsible for road traffic crashes, it is true. And the bulk of it has to do with the drivers. If we can actually have safety-conscious drivers on the road, that is vehicle drivers, because we have two categories of people behind the wheel. We have the vehicle movers, we have the vehicle drivers. But the vehicle movers are more than the vehicle drivers. The difference between the vehicle drivers and vehicle movers has to do with safety consciousness. And for you to be safety conscious, you must actually know the traffic rules and regulations. So the issue of testing or training, we have the driving schools, accredited driving schools. I would not want to go into the process of getting them accredited because we all know what is happening in Nigeria. But what we are trying to do right now is to ensure that before you generate the driver license, the certificate that you're going to use to process the driver license, you must undergo mandatory theory and practical training, and you must also do the computer-based test before you get your driver license.
Thank you very much from this one. I want to quickly jump to the chairman of FRSC represented here. What is the commission doing about the laws on road safety and pedestrian safety?
Yes, sir. The issue of pedestrian safety hinges on 5 issues. One is inadequate infrastructure. That is on road design, the poor road design. You find that the roads are designed for both pedestrian and the motorists and the cyclists to use at the same time. And another issue is the issue of pedestrian by themselves. Where those infrastructures like bridges and and zebra crossings are provided, they find it difficult to use them. They don't really like you, they have apathy towards using them. Then the motorists themselves, they have their own problem. They are unwilling to share a road with some other road users. You find that they don't stop when it comes to pedestrian crossing, even if there is somebody there as provided by the law. If a pedestrian wants to cross and he's at the crossing, they are supposed to stop and allow the person to pass, but they hardly do that. The other issue is the poor knowledge poor knowledge of road use by the pedestrian themselves. You find that when you say you should face oncoming vehicles, most of them don't do that. And you find that in the night they like wearing dark clothes, and that makes them to have crashes. Then again, sir, I look at it that of all the years I spent in this system, I noticed that we don't have a legislation that is that gives penalty for pedestrians that refuse to obey this crossing place. There's no any law that give penalty for that. I think we should look at it and come out with something. Then you asked of what we have been doing, sir. We have been doing a lot of things on those things. The education. We have been educating motorists as well as other people. We even have this post-crash care initiative that people are trained, artisans that are along the corridors are trained so that the accident victims will have care on the spot. We train those people. We give them on basic life support. We give them the tools to operate, and we allow them to stay on that places so that they can give care to those victims that are there. On the issue of training of drivers, so I want to assure you that, and I want to assure everybody here that there is nobody that will be given a certificate, that is given a certificate as of today of proficiency if he did not attend driving school and did not sit for computer-based examination. It's a basic fact. They have examination. They have 25 questions that they answer under, I think, 25 minutes or so. It's a basic. It's a given. That one is there. Of course, there are some issues because the questions are all prose, and then we look at it that there are some other communities that mean, and they are all in English. There is no provision for people that don't understand English, that cannot read English. We don't have provision for that. And I think there is need for us to look at that so that we don't have a problem with that.
Thank you very much from the Commission. Yeah. Honorable Minister, I want to quickly double down on the issue of how to get our elites to obey the rules, because part of the major challenge on the road are convoy drivers. Just I think it was last year, Chris Huhne, a parliamentary secretary in the UK, resigned because of a speeding violation. And he claimed it was his wife who oversped. But on further investigation, the camera showed he was the one driving and not the wife. So he left his cabinet job. And the wife and himself have been prosecuted for that lies. What can we do to improve elite compliance in Nigeria?
I thought I'd answered that question earlier. I did. When I said there must be consequence for every action.
Yes.
I'll give you an example.
Yes.
When we were governors, there are two things Fashola said to us, and everybody obeyed. Fashola came and said, governors, if you don't go and bring down those your liaison offices, or rebuild them, or renovate them, I will take over. Everybody went. I brought down that of River State government. I knocked it down. Other governors gave out some of their own. If you just take that VI road, you can see that people are rebuilding. It was when Fashola came. I'll take it over. It's defacing Lagos. You see, because there was consequence. He didn't come and say, my brothers, it's not good that your things are looking very bad now. That's what you're doing in road safety. I beg now, just don't drive too much. Just obey traffic now. If you say, if you don't obey traffic, you go to a 1 week jail. And you know, Nigeria, most elites are politicians. So you go to 1 week jail, that means that disqualifies you from running for election. What happens? 30 kilometers per hour. There has to be consequence. And that thing Fashola said to us was, and that has to do with road traffic. Gentlemen, stop running against traffic. If I see any of you run against traffic, I will ask my people to embarrass you. Governors kept straight on that same line, whether there's traffic or not. But because there is no consequence, once you see governors, ministers who use convoy, people like us who don't use convoy, ministers who use convoy, governors who use convoy, some of them, not all governors, as soon as they see traffic, instead of following through that traffic, even if the traffic is slowing you down, ask your policemen to go and clear whatever the thing is in front. Instead of doing that, just turn this way. All of us, innocent citizens, will begin to avoid them. There have to be consequences.
Yes. Honorable Minister, I just want to point out that looking at FRSC's records, in first quarter of 2021, 84,521 people were arrested for various traffic offenses. 84,000. Of these 84,000, you can split it across the country. The offenses committed was 100, total offenders was 126,000 people, offenders, and 140,000 offenses, because some offenders will have 2 offenses. Now, these people go to, they call them the courts. They have mobile courts. Then they have those who agree to pay fines. But I can point to the legislature. I can tell you so many people who I know have been booked for offenses and they're sitting in various government offices. You know, people I know have been booked who will call me for help and I say, you have to pay the fines. Because again, there is no, what can we do to induce elite consent? Because even when they know they commit the offense, they pay the fine, the records do not appear when they're going through INEC clearance.
That's one.
The records are not there.
No, that's one.
Yes.
The first is, when you commit traffic offense, it's not criminal.
No, it's not.
I continue to emphasize, I say criminalize, when I say prosecute or let there be consequences, I mean criminalize traffic offense.
Yes, sir.
If you criminalize traffic offense, the politicians know that
people are it's a criminal offense.
It is.
It's criminal. It's criminal.
When somebody dies as a result of carelessness or negligence, it's criminal. It's manslaughter.
Some traffic offenses are criminal.
Exactly, but don't say some. Take 6 years. Just say in 6 years we shall criminalize every traffic offense. See what happens in that 6 years. When we get used to obeying the law after that 6 years, you can do all these international regulations of begging people and not begging people. But for a country like Nigeria, where people don't care about the law because there's no consequence, take out an item, take out the item traffic offenses, and criminalize all of them. In 6 years, you will see big men obeying the law. You know, there's this joke, and I'll tell you this joke. Somebody came to see a patient in a psychiatric hospital. And somebody who had a psychiatric case came out and greeted him as if you are, I'm not a madman. They said, that's how we all start. So, Mamora and I,
yes,
in a bid to reduce traffic offenses, when we were speakers, we passed a law that anybody that is arrested by FRSC, before they take a position, should be taken to a psychiatric hospital first.
Yes.
When you go to a psychiatric hospital, they will put a record now. Mr. C. Aro Amechi card, because it's a hospital. That alone will frighten the politician now, because that's what another politician will come and say, no, but it's a lie, he was a madman, see he's this. There is a law. Are they implementing it in Rivers State? Are they implementing it in Lagos State? There is a law. When I had a conversation with the FRSC commercial, what he told me was, well, traffic offenses, I doubt that National Assembly can pass that. But I'm prepared to do advocacy with the President of the Court of Appeal, this in NGO. We can go from state to state. At least most speakers still respect me as former chairman of Speakers Forum. Or if you don't want to come through, go to Governor's Forum. The governors can direct their members of House of Assembly to pass those laws that can be criminalized. Right? Yes. So once you do that, like we've said here, that if you commit traffic offense, they should take you to a hospital, a psychiatric hospital, and open, just the mere opening of a card is enough.
So, thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I just want to put it in the public domain that the Psychiatric Association of Nigeria frowned greatly at sending traffic offenders to psychiatric hospitals.
When you pass a law is a law. A law is a law.
They argued very strongly that psychiatric conditions should not be used as a tool to enforce compliance of society behavior. Because why are we not charging those with high blood, why are we not taking people with high blood pressure or people with other forms of illness? So they feel that we'll be stigmatizing the psychiatric condition.
No.
And they're stigmatizing it.
No, let me tell you what made Mamora and I agree to pass that law. What made us agree to pass that law was simple. What was the reason? It is mostly psychological. Is it psychological? It's not psychological. What you are driven crazy. You are enjoying the madness of speeding. At that moment, I have a friend who is a professor of psychiatry. He said Nigerians think that all psychiatric cases is madness. There are something that motivates you to speed. At that point that you have that motivation, you're not normal. So let's go to the hospital and say, nobody say you're a madman. Doctor, confirm that this man is well. If the doctor says this man is well, then take him to the traffic court.
Yes.
But if the doctor says he's not well, we're helping him. So he does not suffer two cases, at the same time.
So last word from all the guests here. I will start from the DSAN member. What do you think we should do as a country to promote pedestrian safety? You have 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you very much. The most important thing is, one, education. People need to be enlightened about the need for them to respect the rights of pedestrians. Then in construction, the Ministry of Works and Housing also needs to do something. There are some areas we can give pedestrians priority attention. For example, the elderly people or sick people, they might find it difficult to climb the pedestrian overhead bridges. There are places where we can give priority to pedestrians, let the pedestrian pass through maybe a tunnel and let the traffic move up, so that no matter your condition, you should be able to move under the bridge, the pedestrian. So we have to consider the pedestrian when constructing the roads. Two, we have to do enforcement, because there are some pedestrian walkways that vehicles will park, some vehicles will also be plying the road. You will discover that we won't challenge the drivers. Look, why are you following this pedestrian route? They will ignore you. They knock down people, even on the pedestrian walkways. Then the road markings are not there. No enforcement. The enforcement is the main issue. In construction, we need to give priority attention to pedestrians. In enforcement, we need to give priority attention to pedestrians. And as we have said, prosecution is very important, because when we are talking of enforcement, prosecution should also be there. And when we are talking of enforcement as well, there's a need to address the issue of street naming and even house number.
1 minute as fast. Thank you
very much, sir.
From the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, what will be the focus of the Drug Law Enforcement Agency in promoting safe routes? 1 minute.
Thank you very much. The issue of sensitization, the issue of advocacy is very important, because if you are bringing anything on board, the people who are the end users or the benefactors need to be, adequately informed. And then, of course, enforcement too. When you look at most of the road crashes we have, people under the influence of drugs, alcohol plays a major role. People under the influence of alcohol. So having policies in place in regulating the sales, the use, and the locations where alcohol is bought in Nigeria has to be faced squarely. Regulation of the use of alcohol, the age of purchase, the age of use, and the locations, clearing our motor parks, clearing our roads. There should be designated areas, there should be licensed locations where liquor of different brands are sold. We really need to regulate the use of alcohol in our society. Thank you.
FRSC, what are we going to see in, everybody here talks about enforcement, prosecution.
Yes, sir.
Are there things put in place to ensure constant prosecution and enforcement?
Yes, sir.
1 minute.
Yes, sir. The issue of mobile court now, we have stepped it up, and the issue of enforcement, especially now that we're in the Ember month, we are very serious about it. And when it comes to when we are looking at the issue of public enlightenment again, we are very, very serious about it at this time, and we'll continue to do it, because the aim is to have this safe system approach where we have zero death or severe injury. Now we look at safer roads, safer vehicles, and safe people, as well as safe speed, so that we can be able to have human tolerance when there is crash, to avoid those things.
Thank you very much. And the last word to the Honorable Minister, partnerships. How can we build this government-private sector partnership to encourage, pass the relevant laws, make sure that the right things are done at the administrative level?
Well, I think we need to, the issue of advocacy is essential. It's that advocacy that will create that partnership. But after the issue of advocacy, will be the issue of law and order. If you get the National Assembly in this partnership to criminalize some, if not all, the traffic offenses, and they get the executive to enforce them, then you won't have a problem with the safe route. That's why outside Nigeria, the roads are safe, because there are consequences for killing people.
Thank you very much, everybody. We are rounding up this with 3 key words coming out from here. we need to have enforcement. We need to have consequences for wrong use of our roads. It's clear that we don't yet have enough consequences. And consequences include keeping the proper information and making sure that we have a name and shaming formula. People who commit certain offenses, they know that it will be in the public domain. And thirdly, we must continue to educate. And in that education, advocacy comes in. The private NGOs and the government institutions must continue to partner to ensure that we communicate to Nigerians the need for safer roads. Safer roads, of course, is something that works for everybody. It keeps the country safe. It keeps our most important resource, our human beings. And those are the most important age limit. It is between 21 and 45 that you find most deaths on the road. And that is the most productive part of our population. So on this note, I want to thank you very much for listening to this panel, this very erudite and important panel. We will put together this information. The KRSD will continue to send this information in terms of bills to National Assembly, communication with FRSC, state government, for us to keep creating synergy. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you will all agree with me that that was a very robust panel session. Please, can we give the panelists and the moderator another round of applause? The time has now come for us to give recognition to whom recognition is due. But before we move forward, I would like to respectfully recognize the presence of His Royal Highness David Issa, the Long Dorok of Dorok Kingdom. You are most welcome, sir. He is the father of the victim, whom today is the cause that has brought us here. We also recognize His Royal Highness Bala Usman Aliyu, the Osu of Jiri Kingdom. You're most welcome, Your Highness. And His Royal Highness Alhaji Dr. Adamu Baba Yunusa, the honor of Abaji Kingdom. You're most welcome, Your Highness. We will now move on to the induction of the Grand Patron of the KRSD for 2021. The honoree is an international businessman of repute, a selfless patriot, and a supporter of road safety in Nigeria. He served his nation sacrificially before retiring voluntarily and meritoriously to embark upon private business, becoming successful at same. He is a selfless supporter of road safety, especially the KRSD Foundation, and his contributions are too numerous to recall at this event. However, for brevity's sake, he was the chairman of the KRSD Wednesday Golf Kitty, which was held on 9th of June this year, and has consistently been at the side of the foundation in its events. He has also encouraged the foundation to take its mission of road safety to various sporting venues such as golf courses and the football pitch, as a means to properly promote the message of safer roads. In recognition of his countless and consistent support for the cause of road safety in Nigeria and the KRSD Foundation in particular, the foundation has the honor of conferring the prestigious accolade of Grand Patron upon this distinguished gentleman of peace. Suffice it to say, he also has a transportation background and naturally was a good fit for the cause of road safety. May I invite our founder and indefatigable visionary leader, my Lord Honorable Justice Monica Dongba Mensem, as well as the Chairman Board of Trustees, Architect Alphonsus Baba, to please come forward and to decorate the new Grand Patron, Alhaji Abdul Kadir Abacha, with the accolade of Grand Patron of the KRSD. Please, can we have Alhaji Abdul Kadir come forward as well to the front. Alhaji Abdul Kadir Abacha. Please, can we give him a round of applause? The new Grand Patron of the KRSD Foundation, Alhaji Abdul Kadir Abacha. To join our Grand Patron for recognition and decoration today will be Their Excellencies, the Executive Governor of Ekiti State, Dr. John Kayode Fayemi. Is he still around? I believe he may have left. We shall be taking also His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kebbi State, in the person of Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, who will please come forward at this point to be conferred with the ambassadorship of the KRSD. We would also like to welcome His Excellency, the Chairman of the Nigerian Northern Governors Forum and the Executive Governor of Plateau State, the Right Honorable Simon Bako Lalong, to please come forward. We will be conferring the ambassadorship of KRSD upon Your Excellency as well. We will also welcome in to come and join Their Excellencies, the Chief Host and the landlord of the FCT, the Honorable Minister, Malam Mohammed Bello. Please, can you join Their Excellencies? We will also be inviting the Honorable Minister of Transport, the Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi, to please join whenever he is also back. Can we give him a round of applause? In addition to these distinguished personages, may we also welcome my Lord, the Honorable Justice Abubakar Dati Yahaya, the presiding Justice of the Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal, to please come forward and be recognized as an ambassador. We would also like to invite the Honorable Justice Muhammad Mustafa, Justice of the Court of Appeal. Please, can you come forward also to be conferred with the ambassadorship? We also wish to welcome Architect John Alkali. Please, can you come forward to be conferred with the ambassadorship as well? We would also like to introduce and bring and invite forward Chief Mike Nwakalo to please come forward as well. May we also invite His Royal Highness Igwe Peter Nosike Anugu to please come forward as well to be conferred with the position of Ambassador of KRSD. We crave your indulgence to also invite Chief C.K. Uganden to please come forward.